Hi, this is Mike O'Brien. I'm Senior Content Manager for Multi-Channel Merchant and a programmer for the E-commerce Operations Summit. And today we want to talk about trends that are happening in the world of e-grocery and grocery fulfillment. And obviously, since the acquisition last year of Whole Foods by Amazon, it's been getting a whole lot of attention. A lot of investments been happening, a lot of M&A activities being talked about. So it's become a pretty hot sector, and it's a very competitive area with a lot of the major grocer players as well as some of the larger retailers kind of battling it out for the dollar of consumers who are looking to get their grocery items in a more convenient manner, click and collect, same day delivery, all these kind of things. And there's obviously issues around perishable type items, but it's something, again, that's getting a lot of attention, a lot of activities happening. And so to help us to understand all this a little bit better, we're talking today with Mark Baum, who's the Chief Collaboration Officer for the Food Marketing Institute, or FMI. Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me today.
Great. Glad you could join us. So recently, FMI, in partnership with their data partner, Nielsen, had conducted some research on what's happening in this area of grocery and e-grocery. And one of the things that they did was they projected some numbers as far as the spending in this area in the next number of years. And they've actually pushed forward their projection for when it's going to hit $100 billion in revenue because of all the activity that's going on. So Mark, first question is just talk about how Nielsen with FMI arrived at that, and also had kind of pushed ahead a little bit when they feel that the market's going to reach that level.
Sure, happy to. So we're in a multi-year partnership with Nielsen to really define the digitally engaged food shopper, size up the marketplace, get some sense of what consumer expectations are going to be, and then to give food retailers the tools and the frameworks that they need in order to reach these digitally engaged shoppers and take advantage of that growing marketplace. When we first projected the size of the prize, if you will, we suggested that the online food retailing marketplace would be $100 billion by the year 2025. And we published that figure in January of 2017, about a year ago. Since that time, you've seen, as you mentioned earlier, the Amazon Whole Foods tie-up, a much larger reach on the part of individual retailers attempting to experiment with a variety of online devices, whether it's just their own e-commerce platform. There's some experimentation in click and collect. There's some experimentation in home delivery. And I think driving that even more than the retailers scaling some of those activities are the consumers themselves. That we seem to have hit this inflection point whereby consumers are gaining confidence that food, unlike other categories which tend to be more commoditized, is an area where they gain the trust and the confidence of their retailers to provide them with the products that they're looking for. So it's starting in center store. We think that 40% of that volume is going to go online by 2022 or so. And by the way, when you just look at equivalizing that $100 billion in volume, that's the equivalent of about 4,000 grocery stores using sort of conventional statistics.
Okay, great. And actually, just to kind of define terms, when you say center store, you mean all of the non-perishable items in the store, correct?
Yeah, so traditional center store food, beverage, general merchandise, household, and health and beauty care items, for the most part, non-perishables.
Okay. The next question is, in your report with Nielsen, you talk about e-grocery moving towards a point of industry saturation. Can you kind of break that down a little bit and what that means?
Sure. So saturation really in this case means the maturity model comes full circle, and it is now part of the omni-channel consumer shopping experience. So it's not something that we're doing for trial anymore. It becomes simply embedded as another way for consumers to purchase the food and related items from those stores. So think of it as meeting consumers wherever, however, whenever they want, in a manner that suits their needs. So we think that e-grocery is now getting to the point where it will quickly become just another mainstream channel through which consumers are going to buy those goods.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. And another thing, based on your work with Nielsen, what do you see as some of the key success factors for companies in the area of e-grocery? Again, understanding it's a highly competitive area, as you say, less commoditized, and there's more opportunity for differentiation.
Sure. Well, first of all, it takes, we think, a step towards a new trading partner collaboration model to begin with. One that's really predicated on meeting consumers' virtual or digital needs as well as their physical needs. So it means much closer working relationships between retailers and their suppliers, their trading partners. We've identified several barriers to getting to that new trading partner collaboration model, including, and this sounds sort of like fundamental, but it is absolutely critical, and that is getting complete and accurate data. So, master data management systems are really at the heart of all of this. When you start thinking about everything from product dimensions to the actual packages and the way they look themselves, if the digital package doesn't absolutely mirror the physical package, the consequences are going to be high. If consumers aren't buying what they thought they were when that package gets delivered, they're going to, in effect, scrutinize those trading partners who do a worse job than others at that. There are lots of other success factors as well. Better forecasting, better promotion planning, understanding the personalization that consumers are seeking in their overall mix, whether it's online or in store. And to that last point, and this is really, really important, Mike, to that last point, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Online, even when it reaches saturation, is not going to replace physical grocery shopping. So it's really important to continue, while developing these digital capabilities, to have world-class in-store experiences, which cannot be replicated online at all.
Yeah, that last is a very good point, because obviously, given the grocery model, even more so than maybe retail outlets, apparel and such, it's really never going to go away. It's just going to be augmented and improved upon by online services, collect, et cetera, and making the experience better and more convenient for shoppers. Another area that I talked about at the top is just the nature of a lot of the product being perishable raises issues. You have cold chain storage and that kind of thing. And just talk about how that's an area that's being addressed by the grocers, by the solution providers for them. And also, if you see, this was part of what was behind Amazon Fresh last year. Was well reported that had done some pullback in different markets, and it might have been related to that kind of an issue of trying to scale that business.
Yeah, so Fresh, obviously, it's a perishable business. So that whole cold chain, supply chain has to take into consideration both the quality as well as the safety of those products. The economics are a little bit different within those categories as well, which is not to say it can't be done, and it is being done in a number of markets today. We think that consumers are going to start with more shelf-stable items just because they're the ones that are more regularly ordered, or they can go on subscription or auto-fulfillment. And as they gain confidence that retailers can meet those needs, they will then start to migrate into some of those fresh and perishables categories. Those fresh supply chains are being fine-tuned today to ensure that consumers' quality needs are being met. Again, do you want green bananas? Do you want yellow bananas? What are your preferences for those types of products? And as we start relating, as we learn more about shopper preferences through their online purchasing habits, we can start optimizing and customizing the mix for them. But it's really, really important to ensure that whether the consumer is picking up that product in store or it's being delivered to their homes, that the integrity of that product, that fresh product, is being maintained throughout. So that's probably the most critical last mile. And to a certain extent, these days, the most expensive miles, we try to get the economics right relative to servicing them and their perishables needs.
Okay, thanks again. Another point, as I raised early on, is not just with Amazon and Whole Foods, which was the big gorilla that everyone paid attention to, but there's been also some other talk and interest as far as consolidation, M&A activity. Most recently, with which we've reported on, is Box.com on interest reportedly from Kroger and some others to help in their logistics supply chain areas. Given all the interest that's going on the investment and activity, do you see that kind of thing playing out more, kind of consolidation and kind of M&A plays in this area?
So, mergers and acquisitions have been a factor in the industry for many, many years, and they continue to be. Excuse me. I'm not sure that I would peg M&A or continued consolidation to the growth of digital per se. I don't think it's necessarily a cause-effect relationship. However, it will continue in the marketplace as companies seek ways of perpetuating their businesses, as they seek partnerships, as they seek ways of getting scale. We think that M&A and consolidation will continue to one degree or another. So, for example, not that I would put too much emphasis on it, but when Amazon purchased Whole Foods, it immediately gave them access to a number of physical distribution and retail points around the country, which in turn made the multi-regional retailers look for ways of achieving scale on their digital offerings quickly. So a lot of them partner with third parties. Some of them are doing it themselves. I still think we're in this sort of golden age of experimentation. In terms of what this model is going to look like when it reaches full maturity, I think the jury is out on that. But I think any mature, stable industry does go through ongoing periods of consolidation. And I think that will continue unabated, notwithstanding the growth of digital. I think it would happen anyway, but I think it accelerates consolidation going forward.
Okay, great. And actually, on that point you made about experimentation, there's some interesting news lately out of Walmart, where they have applied for a patent for technology that would basically allow shoppers to see the actual produce that they would be buying, because obviously one of the sort of barriers in this area is fresh items, fruits and vegetables, etc., and people wanting to, as in a physical store, obviously come in and see and feel and touch the items before they purchase. And so just want to get your quick thoughts about that. This is kind of an interesting development that maybe others will try to follow suit on. It's not something that's in play. It's something that they're working on, but it's still kind of interesting in terms of addressing that particular challenge.
Yeah, we think that Walmart's taking a very enlightened and forward-thinking approach to reducing the barriers related to consumer concerns on whether or not they should be purchasing fresh products online. Transparency of product quality and selection is critical in that effort to reach consumers. It's a great tool. It's a great way of building trust with that consumer and give them confidence. And we think particularly as you get into fresh, it's really essential to provide as much of that experience as you possibly can. As you said, this is not really in the marketplace yet, but I think you're going to see more uses of things like augmented or virtual reality to provide consumers with that experience. You're going to see more uses of artificial intelligence to get to the right algorithm to know exactly what it is that offer should be. So it's going to be selection, offer, and then, of course, at the end of the day, it's going to be on fulfillment and distribution once the consumer makes that selection.
Terrific. Thanks, Mark. And I just want to mention quickly that Mark is going to be leading a session at E-commerce Operations Summit, which is going to be held in Columbus, Ohio, on April 3rd through the 5th on this particular subject of e-grocery and fulfillment and fast fulfillment in that area. So hopefully you can come out and hear from Mark on that very interesting subject. There's, again, a lot of activity in that area, as well as a lot of other great topics in the area of omnichannel and shipping and warehouse, et cetera. So hopefully folks come on out and hear Mark and join us in Columbus for E-commerce Operations Summit. Again, Mark, thanks very much for your time and taking explaining this area to us.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. We'll see you in Columbus.
All right. Take care.